After closing 2,935 SMMA clients, here's how to close 50% plus on all your sales calls step by step. And honestly, this is something that people overcomplicate a bunch, but after spending over $120,000 on sales coaching programs, communities, consultations, and things like that from people like Bill Walsh, Jeremy Miner, Cole Gordon, Tanner Chittister, and people like that, I've taken all of those insights and tailored them to SMMA. So in this training, I'm going to take a deep dive into my iPad and kind of show you the scripts, talk tracks, way we objection handle, discovery, and everything, like I said, to close at 50% plus with an agency. In this strategy, it's not luck. We have a current 7-figure agency we run that's using these exact same scripts, and over 100 clients at the 6-figure mark that are using the exact same ones as well. So if you've been in the game at all, there's a few different phases of the call, right? There's one called the discovery, which is basically just asking questions to get a better understanding of where your prospect is, right? After the discovery is the pitch. After the pitch, obviously the pitch is you pitching your product, your service, your solution. After the pitch is objection handling, and the close, which is obviously handling the objection, collecting the money, getting them to sign the contract. Now the discovery, that's the most important part of the call. And the reason for these phases is to get the prospect to get clarity and understand that you bridge the gap between their problem and goal. So in the call, we're gonna have someone named Problem, and we're also gonna have someone named Future Pace. And Problem is where we kind of go over and ask them questions about their problem. And in Future Pace, we ask them questions about what would your life look like if that problem was fixed. So I want you guys to think of it like this. Your prospect right now, let's say this is their current situation, right? And over here is their goal, also known as Future Pace, right? So this is their situation, and that's their goal. This little gap right here is problem. Like their problem is what's in the way of where they are right now and where they want to be. And what we need to do is have our pitch, like we talked about earlier, bridge that gap and be the solution to get them to where they want to be. And so the whole point of the discovery is to widen this gap, basically, right? We want to push this gap as wide as possible to get them to understand that they are not close. Because if we ask questions to get them to understand that they are not close and that they need to achieve this goal and they need to achieve it now, that's when they'll buy on the call. But now to kind of go over what the stages of the discovery are, I kind of just covered that because I want you guys to understand how important the discovery phase of the call is. But first phase of the discovery call is connection. And like I said, I'm going to show you exactly what we say in each and every part. So I kind of want to just give a very brief overview and then we'll dive into it right after this. Connection would just be connect with the prospect, connect with the person. How are you doing? Whatever. I don't like this traditional rapport that everyone's doing, right? Like, oh, did you watch the football game? No one gives a fuck, right? No, like everyone knows you're just trying to sell them something. So like the way we start off our calls is like, hey John, like blah, blah, blah. Where'd you find us today? Okay. Facebook ads. Okay. Perfect. And we only got like 45 minutes blocked off right here. You cool if we jump right into it? Perfect. And so that's just respecting their time, respecting your time, raising authority. Next, after connection is situation. We already went over this. This one's pretty self-explanatory. Where are they at currently? What's their current situation? How many jobs are they doing? How much money are they making? How many leads do they have? What are they currently doing for leads? What's their current sales process look like? After that is problem. So like basically what's bringing them to call? What's in the way, right? Why aren't they at their goal? After that, we can kind of go over solution. Solution would be is like, what an ideal world would a relationship like this look like? In the sense of like, when it comes to a solution to their problem, when it comes to the solution to getting more leads, what do you want that to look like? Do you want it to be done for you? What type of leads do you want? So that way, in solution, we're getting ammo to use in our pitch, right? The biggest thing with sales is just gathering ammo on this discovery phase and then using that against them or for them later in the call, right? And all sales is just trying to be helpful. After solution, we go Future Pace. Future Pace is basically goal. So what their goal is out of this whole thing, or if not goal, it's like, what would it feel like to be at that goal, right? So let's say they want to be at 100K a month. Like, okay, and then what would 100K a month do for you personally? And all us asking that question would do is widen this gap between where they are and where they want to be. After Future Pace, we do consequence. So the goal of consequence is, let's say we're asking Future Pace, we're kind of building them up this mountain. They feel really, really good. And they're at the top of the mountain because they're like, holy shit, if I achieve this goal, it'll be amazing. Consequence is like, what if that didn't happen? So a question we'll use for consequence is like, okay, well, we just went over that side of the story. Well, I guess, Jim, what happens if you don't do anything and 6 months down the line, you still have only 10 leads a month? We pull them off, right? We pull them off the mountain. So we make them feel amazing and they're like, okay, and if it doesn't, we feel like shit. After that, commitment, again, I'll show you guys what we say for all of these, but commitment is basically like kind of getting a temperature check of if this is something they want to do now or 6 months down the line. After that, we pitch. I'll show you guys how we pitch, and then we'll handle objections. I'll show you guys how we do that as well. So first, connection. connection, right? As I was talking to you guys about earlier, the first thing we'll say, and you guys feel free to take this script, that's why I'm fucking giving it to you. I give you everything fucking we have for free. So connection, it's just like, hey Jim, can you hear and see me? How'd you find us is just like, there's no real purpose of why we say this. I would say it's just like, first off, you're just starting conversation. Second off, it helps marketing. Like if you only have one channel and you know exactly how they found you, I wouldn't say that's a huge question. And then what we'll do is we'll send over the VSL, right? We'll send over the sales calls assets. We'll hammer them. We'll come out with a hammer them strategy, which I haven't released a video about yet, but I will soon on ads. And so basically they'll see the VSL. And if you don't know what a VSL is, I have a bunch of videos about it, but we'll ask like, what were the thoughts on those videos that we sent over, right? To get them to basically say if they watched it or what they thought or anything like that. If they didn't watch the VSL, we won't take the call and we'll rebook it. If you guys are beginners anywhere under 20K a month, I would say just take the call. And then we go, cool. And it looks like you booked a call with me so I can possibly help you generate more leads for your business. So whatever problem your business helps solve. Is that right? Yes. And so my goal here, Jim, is to assess the business, see if there might be a need for us to step in. And if so, I'll walk you through what that might sound like. Does that sound fair? Perfect. After that, it's great. And what specifically are you looking for today? Just so I understand. Another way we phrase this is like, what specifically are you looking to get out of today's call? Just so I make sure I can cover that. So what we're trying to get out of this is North Star, right? North Star. All North Star is like the peak goal of the call, right? At the beginning of the call, we set frame of the call, right? And we set a goal for the call, right? So me and the prospect can get on the same page. They can only give you one answer here. And that answer is, I'm looking to scale my business. That's it, because that's what they're on the call to do. They're looking to grow their business. And so if we can get them to tell us at the beginning of the call, I am looking to grow my business. I want to grow my business from out of this call, then the whole call and the frame of the whole call will be, we are doing this so you can grow your business. This is a very important part of the call. I would make sure I don't skip this. What you're going to get a lot of the time is the prospect's going to say, I just want to see what you guys have to offer. And then what you would say to that is like, okay, great, Jim. And like, of course, you're not just hopping on a bunch of calls, just like looking to not make any decisions. I guess like, other than what we have to offer, like, what are you looking to get out of the call? So that would be the connection phase. Next, current situation. And this is literally just, this one's pretty easy. It's just gather information. So you don't need to be in situation for that long. I would just say be in situation for the amount of time that you need to get clarity on where they're at, right? If you feel like you have complete clarity on where they're at, like right now, like you're fine, like to move on, right? So like think of all these stages of the call that we were talking about earlier. Think of it as a checklist. Connection, done. Situation, done. Problem, done. Solution, done, right? And we're not moving on of the checklist until we basically got what we needed, right? And so the more reps you get, the better understanding you'll have on like what we need, like in a sense of like what we need to hear in the part of the call. But situation, you just stay enough to be able to have a good understanding of where they're at right now. So questions that'll help you gather more context on the prospect, not all need to be asked on the call. Let's say like, this is like offer niche, like ignore those. But like, how long have you been in business? What's your team business in size? How many leads are you generating a month? And just probe and clarify until you have a complete understanding of what their problem is. And then a complete understanding of what their situation is, apologies. But like, this one's pretty solid. Like I would say, I mean, this one's pretty self-explanatory. I would say it's pretty niche specific. So let's say you're in roofing. Oh, how many jobs are you doing a month? How are you currently getting your leads? Okay, and then where are you at? Like what markets are you in? Are you currently working with an agency? Just questions like that until you get a better understanding of where they're at. And then what are you currently doing to generate more leads for your business or generate more qualified appointments for your business would be the next question. This basically loads the question of problem, right? So after situation, right, the next part of the call is problem. And so this basically loads the question, which is a kind of complicated sales tactic, but basically we're framing them to be able to tell us their problem, if that makes sense. And then how long have you been doing that for? So just get more clarity on how they're generating leads. After that, we're in problem awareness, right? So problem awareness is how's that going, basically. So like get results. The first thing would be like get tangible results. Like how many jobs are you doing a month? Right here it says like find numbers, right? So how many jobs are you doing a month? How many leads are you generating a month? How many doors are you knocking a month? What's your conversion rate on that, right? So let's just first get a baseline numbers. This is almost a part of situation. Next, we use those results to identify a problem together. So let's say the results are good. So it sounds like good things are going pretty well. Would you change anything to improve if you could? And they should always be saying yes. You guys need to come into the mindset. If someone's on the call with you, they are looking for they have a problem. And their problem is that they don't have enough jobs or they don't have enough business. Because if they did, they wouldn't be jumping on a call with you. So if we're saying, well, dude, it sounds like things are going pretty well and we're push away, would you change anything if you could, right? Unless they say no. Can you expand on that for me? Just so like anything like that, right? So like if they say no, we know they're bullshitting and we just have to basically call them out on it and be like, if things are going like completely perfect, then I guess like what kind of made you want to jump on the call today, right? So like if the results seem good, like that's the question you go into. If the results seem bad, right, they're not closing a lot of jobs, it doesn't seem like they're happy with what they want, just okay, can you expand on that for me? Just ask probing questions to get a little bit more clarity on the problem. After that, we expand into the problem. So what type of impact has that had on your business, right? What position has that XYZ put you in? How long has this been going on for? Again, probing on the issue, getting them to understand that this is a big deal deal now. Tie down that change must be made. This is a really, really solid question right here. What's really the rationale of looking at other options rather than just double down on door knocking? What's really the rationale of like you even looking into like hiring or working with somebody like an agency? Why not just go like make more cold calls with a team, right? And so they're gonna, basically you're pushing them away so they come running back. And then after, do you feel like to reach XYZ or at least as fast as you want, you'll have to make some small changes, right? This depends on your niche. If you're doing like roofing or something like super type A personality, I wouldn't ask it. But if you're like more B2C, then I would ask it. And the way you would phrase it is like, do you think they've reached that 100K a month mark, or at least as fast as you want to get there? You'll have to make some like a few small tweaks and changes. So there we just get them to admit that if they currently do what they're doing now, then they're not going to see the success that they want to see. And then C is pretty much the same thing as what we just said. After that, solution awareness. So this is where we jump into like what they're looking for solution wise. What have you tried in the past? This is huge, guys. If you guys literally just get problem and solution on this call, you'll start closing at 35%. Solution is literally like, what have you tried in the past? And then what are you looking for? Because what have we tried in the past? We can handle that right then and there. And we need to make sure that we're not pitching the wrong shit, right? Let's say that they've worked with an agency who had ran Facebook ads before and they're the same ads that we run, right? We clearly can't pitch that and we clearly can't show them the ads on the sales call. But let's say they worked with an agency who got them leads, but like the leads just weren't good. We need to know that for our pitch. So what have you tried in the past, if anything, to solve your problem of not having enough leads? Expand into it. Oh, you worked with an agency. How did they go? Okay. And a question you can ask if they have worked with an agency is like, okay, and I guess what about us did you see was different than that agency? You know, because then we're just getting them to start selling themselves on us. So they expand into it. We ask what went well, what didn't go well. What went well, we include in the pitch. What didn't go well, we don't include in the pitch, right? So the biggest thing about solution is we tailor the pitch completely to the solution part of the call, right? This is why I hate slide decks or Google Docs for closing or anything like that, because you can't tailor the pitch. Not every prospect has the same emotions. Not every prospect wants the same thing, so we can't pitch them exactly the same. Next, ideally in the perfect world, what are you looking for to help you solve the problem? And then this is pretty simple. Just again, same thing that I just said. Future pace is next. This is basically talking about their goal, ideally what they want and how it would make them feel. Let's say if you were able to generate more leads, right? What's the goal you're trying to reach? So like, let's say best case scenario, we get you 100 leads a month. Like ideally as a business owner, like where do you want to be rev wise monthly? And so get a tangible goal, right? Get a number here. Don't just say, oh, I want more jobs, right? Of course I do. Get a number here. Second, we build that up. And so if you're able to reach that 10 jobs a month mark, John, in 90 days, how do you want things to look in the business at a high level compared to what they look like right now, right? So again, what this allows them to do is just start to see what it would look like in the business if they were to get their goal, right? We got their problem that they weren't getting enough jobs. What is their goal, right? And what would it feel like when they are at goal? And then expand that to personal life. So we build that up in business, right? And then we put that back to personal. There's a fucking dog barking out here. Anyway, so gotcha. And what would that do for you as a business owner, right? And what would that do for you as a business owner? And so a lot of people get scared to ask these types of future pace questions because they think it's like too personal, or they think that their prospect's not going to be receptive of it. And let me tell you, that's the exact reason why your prospect isn't fucking receptive of it, because you're scared, right? If you ask this question with conviction and confidence and it lands, like it will do well, but like, and it will hit. If you don't, like it won't. So if you ask you like, okay, yeah, and then what would that do for you as the business owner, right? Awful, right? They know exactly what we're doing. Gotcha. And like, just curious, John, like what would that do for you specifically as the business owner, right? With curiosity in your tone and your voice inflection changes, right? So again, we're just trying to see what it would look like in the business, and then we're future pacing what it would look like in their personal life. And then after that, we ask, and is goal your end all be all, or what's the long-term vision? Again, just you guys understand the purpose of future pace. I've talked about it a lot by now. After this is consequence. So like I was talking about earlier with consequence, and I'll kind of draw that diagram again, we go current situation here, right? We start building them up slowly with future pace, right? We get them to the top of the mountain here, and then we pull them off the cliff with consequence. What if it doesn't work, right? And so basically the way we phrase that question is, this is something in sales called cost of inaction. What cost of inaction? What happens if you do nothing? What's the cost of you not doing anything? Because there is for sure a cost of the program, right? But there's also a cost of you not doing anything and not joining the program. These both have costs, right? Both of these have costs. Which one is a bigger cost? So the way we'll ask, so that makes sense. But let me ask you a question, Jim. What happens if you don't do anything and you stay at 2 jobs a month for another 6 to 12 months, right? Like what happens then? And then they'll kind of tell you, it depends on the industry, but if you have frame over the call and you feel confident enough to ask this question, you can go, and I guess, would you accept that, right? So again, that's the purpose of consequence. And consequence, even more than future pace, you just have to be so confident in how you're asking and sound super curious. All right, sorry, there's fucking dogs if y'all can hear. Anyway, after consequence commitment, right? And I told you guys about this earlier. This basically, what we're trying to do in commitment is basically get like any objections out before we pitch, right? Because if the objections come out at the end of the call, it's a lot harder to handle them after we've dropped the price because we don't know if there's a smoke screen or we don't know anything. Versus if we get the objections out in the discovery and pre-handle them, that's when we can kind of have something objectionless. So, and is this a now thing for you? Is it something okay you're pushing off 6 to 12 months? Of course, if they're like, oh, I'm okay pushing it off, like we need to handle that right then and there. And then we can ask why. Now, after is the pitch. So this is going to be the framework for the pitch. So basically your pitch should have 3 pillars, right? And you're basically going to repeat this process right here 3 times for each pillar. And so an example of a pillar would be like, so the first pillar we have is the way we run our ads to get only qualified people in the door, right? And I'll kind of explain like how we would say this in a second. So the first thing you're going to do when we come in is blank, right? So the first thing we're going to do when you come in is, let's just say, set up your whole entire funnel. And then because you know how you mentioned to me that problem. So you know how you mentioned to me earlier in the call that you weren't getting those qualified leads in the door, right? So we split what we do into 3 steps. For example, offer, business model, system, scaling. Like this should not be things like group coaching, right? This should not be like actual tacticals that we do. You know what I mean? This is not like, oh, you get a group coaching or you get access to a Slack channel with me, or you're going to get go high level, right? So if you did want to say go high level was one, what you would do is like, so the first thing you're going to do when we come in is like, we're going to set up all those systems and automations. You know how you're telling me earlier that basically you get all of these leads, but they don't actually end up converting to a call, right? What we do there is we have our AI set up. And so when that lead does come in, it gets automatically nurtured, and we have automations with AI send every 6, 12, 24 hours to make sure that those leads really just remember us on the top of the head. You know what I mean? So all that means for you is that instead of like a 1 to 10 lead conversion that you're seeing right now, and do you feel like that could help you get more qualified appointments on the calendar? So basically we just repeat that 3 times. So you guys need to write down your 3 pillars, and then we repeat that process 3 times. So basically this is the framework. You know how you mentioned goal? The second thing we're going to do is pillar. Does that make sense? Do you think that could help you? Why do you feel it could? Lastly, we want to make sure success. So we're just going to repeat this every time. So it'd be like, you know how you mentioned you want to hit that 10K a month mark or 100K a month mark. So the second thing we're going to do is we're going to make sure we have those right qualified leads coming into place. So basically all that means for you is you're going to have those right leads who have the right types of roofs with the right types of shade and et cetera, for whatever niche you're running. And does that kind of make sense, right? Do you have any questions? Do you feel like that could help you solve XYZ problem? I'm hoping I'm explaining this well. I feel like I'm not. But basically you have your 3 pillars, whatever 3 pillars your business helps solve, and then you follow this framework for each pillar. You got to make sure, right, you involve their benefit if they have questions and what that allows them to do. And yeah, right. So next is something in the pitch that we like to do. It's pulling up the ad campaign and showing proof, right? Proof is in the pudding. People are making ridiculous guarantees. Everyone's getting scammed by marketing agencies. The only thing that's going to really allow you to scale is proof and close at higher percentages. So what we do is we pull up an ad campaign of like another client if we've like have one in their area. Let's say we have a client exactly in their area. We'll pull up the ads manager and go, and he's getting leads for like $10. So if you spend $50 a day in ads, I can give you $10 leads and 5 a day. And these aren't some shared leads like Angie's List or some bullshit, but these are qualified, engaged leads who actually want to talk to you. So if I get you 5 leads a day, like how many do you think you can set? Probably 3. Right? Okay, and if you set 3, how many can you close? Probably 1. Okay, and how much do you make per roof again? And so if we're able to provide that, do you think that's aligned with what you might need to reach 100K a month? And just curious, like what specifically makes you feel like you can? So right now we're just literally logistically making it make sense that like this cannot fail, right? Because it truly can't, right? So I hope that makes sense. I would show proof and kind of run them through that like logistical numbers cell if you have the proof. We're always gonna ask these questions right before asking for the close, right? The goal is to get them to say they're 100% in before showing the price. Because if they're not gonna be 100% in before we even show the price, if you're gonna ask them for thousands of dollars, there's no way they're gonna say yes. So first question, do you feel like if you had all that support, do you think there's anything getting in the way of your success? No. Perfect. So as long as things are good to like our financial doably, you're pretty much good to go with this, right? We need to make sure they're saying yes here, like hard yes. Do you think if you had that support, there'd be anything getting in the way of your success? Or I guess hard no, right? They're like, no, not at all. Like this is perfect. If they're not saying it's perfect, we have to call that out and ask why. It's like, oh, John, like you don't sound too confident there. Like I guess what's coming up, if anything? And then we stay there, we talk to them until everything's made sense. So if the process makes sense, John, and you think it could help you out, I don't have much else to cover. cover? Where do you feel like we should go from here? And then we go price, right? So from here, we process investment. Next steps are going to be yada, yada, yada. And then to work with us, it's going to be investment. We have 2 options. Where do you want to go from here? Pretty simple stuff. After that, some things to keep in mind, right? Be a consultant. So that's the whole script. You guys can screenshot it, whatever. But first, be a consultant. Be very, very concise. Don't over chat, right? It should be the 80-20 rule. If you guys have heard of that before, where basically you're talking 20% of the time, asking questions, and the 80% of the time, you're listening to them, right? So be very concise. Don't over speak. Someone confident is concise as possible, right? Have them enter your frame, right? Have them enter your frame in the sense of if they don't buy, they're stupid. And you need to have that level of conviction in your product. And if you don't, you probably shouldn't be selling it. But it's in the sense of like, in the Matrix, someone told me this story and I'm going to try and remember it properly, but I don't know if I will. In the Matrix, Neo's on a train, someone's on a train, something's happening, someone goes onto the train and Neo goes, when you are on this train, I am God. Like, you don't fuck with me, bitch, when I'm on the train. Like, this train is my shit, right? And so when somebody hops onto your sales call, they need to enter your frame, right? Like, all frame is the way that someone sees reality, right? And so when somebody talks to you, they need to see reality of somebody confident, right? Of somebody that can deliver results and that somebody's going to do whatever it takes to get something done for them. And so if you can have that, for the lack of a better word, aura about you, like, you will get a long way in sales. And so just have the frame of confidence and strength on the call, and they're coming into your frame, and you're not going to go beg. You're not going to beg. You don't need their business. You're just there to help them. After that, just realize it's just a conversation. Stop overthinking all this shit. All you guys are doing is having a conversation. Like, just don't be an awkward piece of shit weirdo. Last, be understanding. You just need to be understanding of the prospect. If you were literally just thought and were like, okay, this guy, I'm asking him questions. He's gone through the sales process before, right? Let's say he's probably done this like 5 times. He's telling me he worked with an agency and they burned him. It was an awful experience because of this, this, and this. Like, that makes sense. If I was him, I'd feel the same way. And so if I was him, what would I need to see in order to make a better decision? In order to make a decision on a call, I'd probably need to see proof. I'd probably need to feel very comfortable with the person. So if you can just be understanding, ask questions, you get a long way. Again, I appreciate y'all watching. I kind of feel like this video was all over the place. Maybe it was, maybe it wasn't, but I hope it helped, and I'll catch you on the next one. If I provided you some value, subscribe. Y'all know what to do. I'll catch y'all.